This book is an attempt to tell the history of a small place in coastal South Carolina. Historians write about the past using written sources. Newspapers and government records are very helpful, but when someone's personal papers survive, that is truly a small miracle. As the listener will shortly discover, sources about the history of Kiawah, particularly its early history, are quite scarce. Historians have asserted that certain places on the South Carolina coast have no history. Just because the written sources are obscure does not mean that these islands played no part in the development of the state or region. But this book was completely a labor of love for me, so I dug earnestly in many libraries to discover the history of one of the most beautiful islands on the Atlantic seaboard. Marc Bloch, the great French historian, once wrote, "The migration of manuscripts is, in itself, an extremely interesting object of study." The earliest surviving manuscript relating to Kiawah Island is an indenture, dated January 4th, 1723. It is an agreement between two planters, John Stanyern and Jonathan Drake, and it has to do with the purchase of livestock on the island. Stanyern's granddaughter, Elizabeth Raven, married Arnoldus von Dross in the late 1760s, and she inherited half of the island upon her grandfather's death in 1772. Apparently, the von Drosses acquired Stanyern's Kiawah plantation papers because that early indenture is to be found among their papers today at the South Carolina Historical Society in downtown Charleston. Outside of colonial land and legal records, that document is the only scrap of evidence about John Stanyern's plantations that survives today. The last male von Dross to live in the South Carolina Lowcountry was Arnoldus von Dross V, and he died unmarried on December 21, 1943. A year or so after his death, Adele von Dross Ravenel, his eldest sister, donated the family papers to the South Carolina Historical Society. Filled with references to Kiawah Island, the collection is essential to anyone interested in the island's past. However, piecing together the lives of the African Americans who lived on Kiawah as slaves or farmers is virtually impossible. In this case, the elites are writing the sources. Obviously, the von Drosses asked different questions about Kiawah's past than historians of the early 21st century do. Elias von Dross once remarked to his brother, "I have enjoyed the additions to the Kiawah picture, namely that of Anne von Dross, his grandmother, and mothers." If a historian is interested in agriculture, slave life, or environmental change, he must work harder with the sources. For the von Drosses, Kiawah represented family.